Appreciate you streaming in on a tough morning here on Birds 365. Eagles get their tails handed to them for the second consecutive week, and we missed Jeff Kerr's commenting on the 49er beatdown, so we got him in time to get the Cowboy beatdown coverage in.
Oh, double beatdown.
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row, not good, much ugliness. Jeff Kerr, what concerns you most about this now on a 2-game losing streak Philadelphia Eagle team?
No fight. I saw a team that doesn't embody the city of Philadelphia. I know that's an old school mentality and old school thinking, but I saw a team that all I hear is talking from these guys the last 2 weeks. And this is what you put up against two teams that have equal to better talent than you. This is what I see. I see a team that they're getting outplayed. They're getting outcoached. I think they have an answer to it, but it's not a good sign when you just got two teams that just beat you down. When you see DeMarcus Lawrence saying, "Oh, we just kept punching," or I forgot what the exact quote was, and you got Deebo Samuel and Nick Bosa and a bunch of these guys just talking trash on you. Like, don't you want to come out and prove something? It looked like they were just going through the motions last night at times.
Wow. Going after the team. That's not Philadelphia like, Jeff. You got to go after the coaches. Brian Johnson, Sean Desai. Well, that was my hot take. They should be set adrift on the Schuylkill. Forget about Bayard. The coordinators are always the problem in Philadelphia. Or are they? We've given Howie Roseman all his flowers. This defense stinks.
That's terrible. Swiss cheese.
There's no personnel on the back end. None. You have a descending couple outside corners now. Some of that might be injury related. Some of it might just be coming down from a career year when it comes to Bradbury. But all the moving parts in all the other places. Come on, man. It's not good enough. And it's not getting good enough, Jeff. And they try to go this route with the veteran players. I don't like it. It sort of worked a little bit with Linval and Dominican Sue last year, and I think Howie fell in love with it. I think it was a mistake.
Same with Shaq Leonard. I knew Shaq Leonard wasn't going to be, and look, he barely played last night, John. Do you know the exact number of snaps he played?
I think it was 14.
14, yeah. But I didn't think he was going to make that much of a difference here, but I love what you said about the back end. You know what bothers me about the back end of this defense? They got no young guys that can replace them. I get tired of hearing about Josh Jobe and Kelly Ringo and guys like that. Kelly Ringo, I saw why he.
I'd rather watch Kelly Ringo play and Sidney Brown play than these veterans. I really would. I would.
I agree with you there.
Deep into the pool.
Trial by fire. And you know what? I know why he doesn't play Kelly Ringo, but I think I'd rather see him right now because you're going to give up a 30-yard pass. What's the point?
Yeah, I can't.
Well, I'm exaggerating a little bit.
We're remembering that the Philadelphia Eagles were in the Super Bowl last year, right? And we knew their mission this year was to get back to the Super Bowl and actually win it. So you're going to go with an undrafted. You don't think Howie would get crushed if he said, "Listen, coaches, get this undrafted free agent up to speed by the time we get to week number 17."
That's a fourth-round pick and a third-round pick, Calais Ringo and Sidney Brown. I'm not talking about Ringo as much. I think, Ringo should have been playing over the undrafted free agents, Josh Jobe and Eli Ricks. I think.
So you think the Eagle coaching staff is that bad that they can't realize that a player who was drafted is not better than a player who was undrafted?
No, I'm not.
What would be the reasoning that they would play an undrafted player over a drafted player, other than in their eyes, their ability to judge talent, the undrafted player is better?
Because they perform better in practice, which they did. I was at practice every day. But at some point you have to say, maybe a certain kid with more talent, maybe he's a game day player. Maybe he's not a practice player. And someday, and I would add into the fact that Josh Jobe didn't play well when he got his opportunity. Eli Ricks hasn't played well when he got his opportunities. Either did Caley Ringo.
And they put Caley Ringo in last night. What happened? 2 penalties.
Either did Kelly Ringo. All I'm saying is, and I went through this with Dennis Green. I'm going way back when Dennis Green showed up and said, "There's a new sheriff in town. And I remember he played a bunch of young guys, and we're like looking at him like, are you kidding me? These guys have done nothing. Carlos Jenkins, one of them, anyway. And they needed an influx of speed. This game's about speed. Let's face it. They needed a big influx of speed. And he plays all these young guys, and there were some hiccups, but they were better, and they ended up making the playoffs in his first year. I'm not saying it's foolproof, but if you don't have speed in this league, you're in trouble. And right now they're playing with no speed on the back end.
You know, John, there's a reason. I know people in this town don't like Andy Reid and Joe Banner, but there's a reason why I always respected those two. Because when Darius Slay goes to you, pay me or I'm getting cut, Joe Banner, see ya. We don't need you. You're old. We don't care. And you're seeing the result. James Bradbury, same thing. It's almost like, okay, we couldn't get C.J. Gardner-Johnson for whatever reason. You know, we have our sources. We have our opinions on what happened there. And then it's like, okay, well, we'll go sign James Bradbury, even though we weren't going to sign him. Well, now James Bradbury's old. And now you got two old quarterbacks and you got no one to replace him. Like you said, Josh Jobe, when he comes in, he doesn't play well. I'm not saying he won't be a good player, but that's the vision I have. Same with Kelly Ringo. Same with Eli Ricks. Sidney Brown at least has shown some flashes, but again, he's another one. Got to play more. They're good at defensive tackle, but that's the other issue I have too. Does anybody besides Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat rush the passer on this team?
They tried to get Nolan involved yesterday a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit.
He had one pressure and played more snaps than he's played all year. About time.
Yeah, when they were down 20.
But he's another guy. Yeah. I mean, I have some worries about Nolan Smith, about can he hold up and the shoulder, and maybe he's not healthy and all that kind of stuff. But if he is healthy, yeah, he's got to be out there. And he should be ahead of where he is now. They seem to have trouble with those startup costs, and they don't want to go through it. Maybe because they are a Super Bowl contender or were a Super Bowl contender. I'm not sure where we are. They don't want to go through them. Boy, man, what's the 49ers? How many defensive backs they played last year that were young players? Was it the 49ers?
49ers played a lot. I mean, Lenore was one of those guys. Like I mean, I know they kept Hufnega's a young guy too, who's out by the way.
The team that did better than anybody else was the Chiefs.
The Chiefs. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, well the Chiefs got tons and tons across.
That's who I was thinking of. The Chiefs. Thanks, Jody. Yeah. And they won the damn thing. Yeah. And they're playing all these young defensive backs. You think those guys did make mistakes? I guarantee
they made a lot during the year. They made a ton. They made a ton in the Super Bowl, but they still play it. And now they got an elite defense. By the way, can I just go off on a little rant about the Chiefs? Kadarius Toney was offsides, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
deal with it. He's a bad football player.
Lost his mind. Holy mackerel.
I can't stand people complaining about officials, and this is a perfect indication. By the way, and I'll give him his just due because he does a great job. There's a Twitter account, NFL Rep Stats, one who does a tremendous job breaking down all the information, and he sends it out to media people. So now all the media people have all this information, which I don't think is a good thing. So you come into this, to use the Eagles Cowboys as an example. The Eagles were 7-0 with John Hussey as the referee coming into last night's game, and all the Cowboy fans were losing their minds during the week. Oh my God, look at what the league is doing. And then after the game, the Eagles, he was also a home field referee. The Eagles are complaining, oh, they got called for a pick. They picked up this flag. They picked up that flag. Persevere. When you lose by the score the Eagles lose by, it ain't John Hussey's fault. And if you're offsides, yes, Jeff Kerr, you're offsides. Kadarius Toney's the dumbest player in the league. I'm sorry. You're blatantly offside. Yeah, they threw the flag. Live with it.
So John, when that play happened in real time, I'm getting ready for the the Eagles game for CBS, but obviously I'm really paying attention to Chiefs Bills because one, I like both those teams. I said it before it even happened. I'm like, did he not signal to the official? And he didn't. And, Patrick Mahomes, for him to say what he said after the way he won a Super Bowl last year, I've had enough
frustration. And then the week before, sorry, Joe, the week before, they had that pass interference that wasn't called on MBS. But guess what? Earlier in the season, they were getting calls every week, and everybody was saying, "Oh, the Chiefs win every game because of the."
Earlier in that quarter, they'd gotten a call that I saw.
Yes,
that's not a penalty.
You know where the real
those
frustration
things
lies? You know where the real frustration lies with Patrick Mahomes? He knows his wide receivers.
Oh, they stink. They stink.
That's the issue. The Chiefs are not going to the Super Bowl with that group. I'm sorry.
And I don't remember which one of you called him the dumbest player in the NFL, but you might be right. On almost every play in the NFL, if you're a wide receiver, unless you're playing with pace and you're trying to get there as soon as possible, you can always look over to the referee and just, am I onside? And he'll nod his head and go, good, or as in you have to take a half step back. And Tony didn't even bother. He's a solid foot offside. On you. Why didn't you look at the ref? He would have told you move back. They do it all the time.
I was taught this in 5th grade, and I never played wide receiver. There's certain things you do. He didn't do it. He's just dumb. He's a dumb football player. I can't believe Kadarius Toney is in the National Football.
I can't believe the Giants took him in the first round. That's the bigger question.
Well, that's why the Giants suck. They draft players like Kadarius Toney.
All right, I started a new thing on Twitter where I'm going to tweet one hot take after each game because people get rewarded for this. So I'm going to put one outrageous hot take about each game. My hot take this morning, guys, was fired, ? Sean Desai, Brian Johnson should be set adrift on the Schuylkill and banned from polite society. Now, I think that's pretty clearly a joke. Sure enough, there's one guy said, is this for real or is John being tongue in cheek? Anyway.
That's why you do it, John. You do it for the responses.
No, you shouldn't, because that's what David Carr did. So don't even go there. We ripped the shit out of David
Carr.
Carr.
That's why I'm making fun of David Carr right now.
I'm not going to advocate for that. Here's a legit.
I truly am advocating to them to be set adrift.
Legit question. And they complained about it somewhat last night. Shame on them for that. You can't even go there and you can't even risk it because it's a judgment call and the judgment goes against you and you pay a price. The wide receiver pick plays. Nick Sirianni is Mr. Wide Receiver, former wide receiver coach, talks up to wide receivers all the time. Why do they have an inability to do it and get caught doing it all the time and other teams do it? What looked like two very similar plays. On the one play, CeeDee Lamb just did a spin move.
Pirouette.
Pirouetted out of the way so that he didn't get the flag. He does it correctly, but the Eagles lose a big play because they run a pick play. That's on Sirianni, right? He is Mr. Wide Receiver coach. He's supposed to teach these guys how to be able to do that and not get flagged, and the Eagles continue to do that. Shame on Nick Sirianni, I say. Hot take or no hot take?
No, I've been talking about that for years. They can't run a damn pick play. Everybody, it's a pick play if it's against your team. If it's for your team, it's a rub route. Right. And CeeDee Lamb did it correctly. He did a goofy pirouette, as Jody pointed out, but he did not hit the defensive back. A.J. Brown hit the defensive back.
It's a penalty.
It's a penalty. Stop comparing the two. It's a penalty. And, the fact that you get away with occasionally is a bad non-call by officials. They can't run a damn rub route. I've been saying it for years. It's unbelievable how many penalties they get on that, especially because they have good receivers, well, at least two good receivers, who should know better. That was a penalty.
By the way, John, I never said it 2 years ago. I should have when they traded up. And because I knew who they were going to take because I was told that. They liked Devonta Smith. But when they did trade up, I said, because then I put my Penn State bias on here, they should have took Micah Parsons.
Yeah, I'm surprised more when Jody and I talked about that. That wasn't in the equation for the Eagles.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. The Eagles were going to take a corner.
They originally wanted Sertan Horn, but
JC Horn. They had 4 players. They had JC Horn, Patrick Surtain, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. And once 3 of them were off the board, they went up and got Devontae. They were never even thinking about Micah Parsons. Remember, and Jody brought this up, and I forget about it, and I shouldn't because I should take credit for it. I had told Jody throughout that draft process that Micah Parsons looks like an edge rusher to me. He doesn't look like an off-ball linebacker.
Yeah,
but
Brett Pry played him at off-ball linebacker, but I always thought he was an edge rusher.
He had short arms. So, the NFL, he's got short arms. You can't, you got to have 34.5-inch arms to be an edge rusher. And the Cowboys, people forget. He was playing off-ball linebacker.
Playing with linebacker.
Until DeMarcus Lawrence got hurt and they couldn't rush the passer. And they said, oh, Jesus, what are we going to do? Let's give Micah Parsons a chance. And the rest is history.
Yep.
It's amazing, this league. It's sometimes. And, he's a tremendous player, Micah Parsons. And that's another example of, sometimes you got to tip your cap to the other team. The Cowboys are a really good team. Obviously, Eagles fans don't want to admit that. They've won 15 straight at AT&T Stadium. They're scoring 40 points. They actually held them under. Whether they were scoring 40 points a game at home.
You know what the Cowboys did, John? They were like the Eagles last year. They took a huge lead, and they didn't need to do anymore. Yeah. They just ran the ball the second half. Well, they ran the ball.
That's true. That's true.
Oh, by the way, thank you for reminding me, Jeff Kerr. This is not a hot take. This is me looking into the camera and telling you, if you've been a fan of Birds 365, you've been a fan of mine wherever I work since the day Nick Sirianni was hired. They idiotically deferred to start the game yesterday.
I knew it was coming.
I said this. This is not 2020 hindsight. This is not after the fact. I've been saying it for years, and I said it right here on Birds 365 last week. After the way the defense was trounced for 6 consecutive touchdowns last week by San Francisco. If you get the coin flip, take the ball. Maybe you get a drive. Maybe you get to play from in front. Maybe you go down the field and get 7. You do not let the Cowboys come out and march down the field and get a touchdown on you at your expense. You give them the ball. And what happened? They won the coin flip. They kicked off, and the Cowboys went right down the field and stuck it into the end zone. Man. And the Eagles were playing for.
That's a hell of a run, by the way. They went 10 consecutive drives, giving up points.
So let's get our defense out there as quickly as possible. Is just that's coaching malfeasance. I'm sorry. Jody, the fact that you make the decision ahead of time based on analytics, not having anything to do with the situation or the individual game matchup, is just wrong. I don't care how strong the analytics are. I don't care that Bill Belichick has given it his blessing. Screw it. You got to make an individual decision on an individual game. And I picked the Eagles. I trust the Eagles. When the coin flip went up and they said, we'll kick off, I said, we're screwed. We're screwed.
They lost the game on the coin flip.
They did. Basically, a lot of times that happens. It's over before it ever starts.
But my takeaway from the game was for CBSSports.com, and I wrote why the Cowboys won. I said, the Cowboys dominated all 3 phases of the game, and I put why the Eagles lost. I actually did mention, the Eagles lost once they decided to defer. So there you go, Jody.
Yeah. It's almost too easy to point out the deficiencies of this defense. So I'm going to switch to the offense for a second.
Can we please talk about the defense some more?
We'll get to it because I gotta clear something up with you about TJ Edwards because all these idiots are coming after me.
Because of what I told Clay last night.
Yeah. And there's no evidence, and tell me if I'm wrong, but no evidence that TJ was offered more money by the Phil. Now they're saying the Eagles offered him more money.
The Eagles
don't offer money. Yeah, these people are nuts. Anyway, but offensively, Dak Prescott now the leader in the MVP race. Not that matters. Had another tremendous game. He threw the football to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different players. the Eagles threw it to 3, unless you want to put Braden Mann into the equation.
Yeah, I'm not counting him.
With Olamide Zaccheaus. Nobody else had a target. Nobody else except AJ, Devontae, Dallas Goedert. Now, those guys are great. Don't get me wrong. But there's got to be a curveball at some point.
I mean, I know Quez Watkins played. I saw him on the field, but I didn't see him get a target.
He didn't get a target. Nobody. DeAndre Swift, Kenny Gainwell, nobody out of the backfield, not a backup tight end, nothing.
It's a Madden football team. They just target 3 guys, and that's it.
Yeah, that's got to change. That's got to change. As good as they are, and you can beat the New York Giants and the Arizona Cardinals doing that, you got to get somebody else involved at some point.
They did.
Julio Jones, speaking of the veterans, I talk about the veterans on there. Why is Julio Jones here? Why?
Hey,
know.
at least Julio dresses. Not like Rashad Penny.
Well, another one.
Never even gets into
I don't know why
uniform on
he's here.
Sundays.
I don't know why Rashad Penny's here at all. I don't get it.
Another, and Jody, I was texting Jody. I wrote about it, and it got a phenomenal number of hits, which shocked me. I wrote about the whole Christian Ellis situation. Why the hell is Howie Roseman putting him on waivers when you got 5 guys that don't matter? And you can say Christian Ellis is this and that. Guess what? He played more special team snaps on this team than anybody else.
He's a good special teamer, and you cut him.
Yeah.
Someone was going to pick him up.
And I don't know about you, Jeff, but I haven't heard anybody, 6 teams claiming anybody in recent years. 6 freaking teams claiming him. And you got Albert O and Rashad Penny, who don't even dress. You could probably get Suo Peta back through waivers. You could do a bunch of different guys.
You could have cut Rashad Penny. You could have cut Rashad Penny, and no one would have picked him.
Rashad Penny. And even if you lose those guys, who cares? They're not part of your equation. This is a part of your equation. And he tried to get too cute because Ben Van Sumeren has no more elevations. And if they got him through waivers, they could have done it that way and just elevated him 3 times and then figured out when somebody else gets injured. Like nobody else would be watching, because if you notice what Howie did, he didn't sign Shaq Leonard on Monday. He agreed to terms. On Tuesday, they brought him in, didn't sign him. Wednesday, they signed him, made the move. The thought process was, well, everybody's getting ready this week and nobody's going to pay attention. Try to sneak him through. 6 freaking teams claimed him.
Yeah. You know what? Christian Ellis was the one guy on that defense I defended last week because, look, first NFL start, you're going up against Debo, George Kittle, McCaffrey. Yeah, good luck. Like, and again, that's that trial by fire we were talking about. But, like, I saw so many people making Christian Ellis a scapegoat. I'm like, Christian Ellis ain't the problem with the Eagles defense. There's a philosophy problem, but it ain't Christian Ellis.
All right, somebody's got to come to the Eagles' defense and rescue here. I'll make a prediction. Christian Ellis does not come back to haunt the Eagles. Now,
bold.
Could there be a different venue route that Howie could have gone that would have allowed the Eagles to keep all that guys? Yeah, sure. You're right. Who the hell's going to claim Rashad Penny and or Albert O? Go ahead. Have at it. You want to go with either of those 2 guys?
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I would have done if it were me. But if Christian Ellis becomes a every down linebacker for another team down the road, I'll apologize. I'm telling you, he's a special teams.
Well, I wrote that. It's probably not going to matter. I wrote that. I'm not saying that. It's just, when we this is a team that likes to brag. They like to win outside the margins and blah, blah, blah. We do all that.
Yeah, they're really winning outside the margins.
So when you lose outside the margins, I'm going to point it out. And they freaking lost that in big time. And it's one of those things where Howie's been skating through. And again, I'm the guy who got shat upon for calling him a top 5 GM. He's still a top 5 GM. He's probably the best GM in football. But as I often point out, he makes mistakes. And there's a perfect example. And he's made some other mistakes. The personnel isn't good enough on the defensive side of the ball. All right, people say we protect Jalen Hurts on this show. So here you go, people. He's stunk.
He played like
the past
crap
2
last
weeks.
He played like crap
Um,
last night. I'm sorry, he did.
And for the people that read, and there aren't many of them, I wrote about Jalen Hurts holding on to the football too much against San Francisco. Again, he's not spreading the football around. What the heck is going on with Jalen Hurts, Jeff Kerr, and Jody McDonald?
David Carr was onto something. Marcus Mariota needs to play. No, stop.
No, let's not go that far. But he does have 15 turnovers in 13 games.
Right.
Really
He's not
matters.
playing. He's not playing anywhere near the level he played last year. He was legit MVP. Can't have been in the lead before he got hurt late in the season. There's been a drop off, and that's on him. That's on the offense. That's on the fact that it could potentially be on the fact that he's getting paid, because I truly do believe, I don't know that I've held either of you two guys' feet to the fire in this one. I'm on record. I do believe that there were conversations had between Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, and the new offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson, during this offseason, where they told Jalen, we need you to be more protective of yourself. When we have an RPO and you're going to take a run, don't be afraid to slide. Don't be afraid to get out of bounds. Don't be afraid. He had the one play yesterday where he gave up behind. He went into a slide behind the line of scrimmage, and he had a blocker out in front. Now Dallas had two defensive players there, so it was 2-1. He was outnumbered, and he just decided, not even going to try. I'm going to go into a slide for a loss on a play. I believe that they all agreed. I don't know that Jalen fought it. I don't know that Jalen started the conversation. But between the three of them, they all agreed Jalen Hurts wasn't going to take as many chances this year because of the $250 million contract. Do you guys agree or disagree with that statement?
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to go a different route with the whole Jalen Hurts thing, but
answer my question first, and then go whatever route you want.
I do think they might have had some conversation. This is just my opinion, but it does feel like he's more conservative this year than he was last year. And I don't know if that's because the knee was bothering him earlier in the year. John, you would know this a lot better than I would. Is the knee better?
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would think.
No, Jody, yeah, they definitely had a conversation, despite what Nick said earlier. Shockingly, Nick contradicted himself.
Why would I take his superpower away? Except you took his superpower away, Coach.
Now, but I think if you saw at the beginning of this particular game, as an example, he looked great early with the design runs, and then he fumbles the football at the end. He had two good runs. And the play you're talking about, he was going to get destroyed. So I have no problem with him sliding even behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, Kenny Gainwell missed the block. Mike is coming from the back end. And there were two defenders besides Micah ready to light him up. So I don't have that I don't have a problem with. I think the whole thought process was get to the big games, and then we're going to unfurl the old Jalen Hurts. And
we're unfurling all right. We're unfurling the 2021 Jalen.
There's too much hubris with this team. Like, they can just flip a switch.
You can't do that.
Jody's pointing up to his point with the coin toss. I know he loves. He's right. You should look at an individual game and say to yourself, you know what? Our defense isn't playing well right now. Let's try to protect them. Let's try to get the football, maybe go on a 7-8 minute drive. You shorten the game. But the Eagles are too cocky and say we can beat anybody, and we don't have to do stuff like that.
I literally preach to 15 high school varsity basketball players, you can't underestimate an opponent or you're going to lose. You can't play down to them or you're going to lose. The Eagles don't even play up to them. I mean, we heard all year, we're fine, we're this. Well, okay, guess what? Now you had the litmus test against the 49ers, against the Cowboys, and you got the doors blown off you. By the way, I can't believe we are 30 minutes into this, and we have not mentioned their shitty running backs. And I'm talking all three of them. Well, they all suck.
You're right.
They all suck. I'm so sick of DeAndre Swift. I can't wait till he's
gone. If I hear one more person compare DeAndre Swift to Christian freaking McCaffrey, I'm going to lose my mind.
The
49ers do it. Yeah. The 49ers do it.
Miles Sanders was a better fit for this football team than DeAndre Swift. He was.
Yeah.
He was a better football player for them than DeAndre Swift.
All right. Time for some
Yeah,
positivity.
I'm a DeAndre
All right.
guy. You know, John will tell you, I can't figure out the coaching staff's love for Kenny Gainwell. They've had it for 2 years running now, and I don't get that a little bit. And none of us understand exactly how Rashad Penny. The whole thing makes no sense. Either you look at him, you evaluate him. Oh, ain't what we thought he was. Don't count it. It's 6.7 yards per carry is what it says on the back of his football card. Doesn't look like that for us. Well, then get him out. Move on. But they just cling to him all year long.
Well, I tell Seth, guys.
I still say DeAndre Swift's a damn good running back. Check the stats. He's in the top 6 still in the National Football League rushing. Jeff, you can take all the shots you want at him. He's way ahead of Miles Sanders right now. Where is Miles Sanders compared to DeAndre Swift?
Miles Sanders is a better football player for this team than DeAndre Swift was. Bottom line. Bottom line.
Last year, I don't disagree with that. Last year.
Yeah, well, this year.
Miles had a very good year last year. Miles had a very good year.
Yeah, well, this year.
If you put DeAndre Swift on Carolina, he'd be Miles Sanders. I mean,
exactly.
they're probably about the same. But
but we didn't say Miles Sanders sucked last year. The way Jeff just said the entire Eagle running back room sucks.
No, Miles made the. I'm not going Jeff. I think DeAndre's a above average player, but I think he's an above average player, and I think too many people in Philadelphia think he's a star.
Why? Because he's from here. That's the problem. if he was from Dallas, Texas, they wouldn't be thinking that.
All right. Positivity, because it is Mental Health Monday as well as Overreaction Monday, Reality Monday. I think Jody called it. So I'm going to go Mental Health Monday. This team's 10-3. All right,
they're going to go 14-3. By the way,
yeah. If they go 14-3, are people just going to be right back on the train and say, there's a couple hiccups? I mean, right now it doesn't look good if they have to go to San Francisco or Santa Clara, actually. But if they have to play the Cowboys here, I'd pick the Eagles. Now, if they had to play them down there, I'd pick the Cowboys.
John, this is what you missed. This is what you missed from me last week. One of my famous one-liners was, I'm glad the 49ers won their version of the in-season tournament with that huge Week 13.
I like that. I like that, yeah.
Because that's all they did was talk trash the entire week. I'm like, congrats, you didn't beat them when it counted last year. You weren't beating them with Brock Purdy last year. Oh, and by the way, don't lose one game the rest of the way, because you're not going to get what you set out to get. And I agree with you. I'll still take the Eagles' chances at home. They don't win in Dallas, period. They haven't won in Dallas since 2017.
No.
They just don't win there. So, to me, that was I didn't think they'd get their doors blown off, but I also was like, they're probably not going to win this game.
I mean, they're still 10-3. They still have the best record in the NFL.
And they get to play the Giants twice.
They get to play the Giants twice. They get
the
to play
Red Hot
the
Giants. The Red Hot Giants.
Now Seattle,
we'll Giants do tonight against those Packers. You burying the Giants? The Packers.
The Packers are going to destroy.
The Giants beat the Patriots, who were
guys are going destroyed by double digits.
I'm a big Jordan.
By double digits.
I've been talking about Jordan Love since the preseason. I took some hits early in the season. Here he comes, and they're going to make the playoffs. The Green Bay Packers.
Do you guys want a hot take on the New York Giants that I haven't given one all year?
Go ahead.
I've been right on. Tommy DeVito should be their quarterback to start next season.
Stop.
No, come on. Come on.
Jeff Kerr should be their quarterback over Tommy.
No. I can't throw.
I don't know what the Giants are going to do at quarterback, but it can't be involving Tommy DeVito. It can't be. Boy, we saw some bad quarterbacks out there yesterday. Bad quarterback play.
Yeah, but so
Joe Flacco was not bad.
And Joe Flacco, that old man, and Jake Browning, 2 weeks running.
Oh yeah, Jake's
no drop off from Joe Burrow. If anything, elevation from Joe Burrow for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The Bengals are going to make the playoffs because of Jake Browning.
They might.
Yeah, man. He was a great quarterback at Washington. I tell you, he was one of those guys. He was sort of like the Eli Ricks of quarterbacks. He had his first season. Everybody's like, this guy's going to be a top 15 pick. And then he had to play 2 more seasons and turned into an undrafted free agent.
I am right off Jake Browning because I have a good source on the Bengals that basically told me don't write us off. And I said, oh, really?
No.
like you're seeing something in Jake Browning that I'm not seeing? Okay.
I did a 180. I wrote him off when Burrow went down. Then when I watched Browning play last Monday night, I go, all right, I'll give this kid another chance.
Yeah.
And he came up big yesterday.
I actually said that to the source. I went right back to him Tuesday.
He gets Brian Flores on Saturday. You're going to learn a lot about him because he's going
Brian Flores. By the way, John, how about that 3-0 barn burner, that Super Bowl 11 rematch right there?
Boy, there's another guy. It frustrates me when I know something coaches don't know. It frustrates me. So I brought it up with Micah Parsons. I'll bring it up with Kevin O'Connell and Josh Dobbs. You got to change your offense, dude. If you're going to run a Kirk Cousins offense, you should have signed Joe Flacco, or you should play Nick Mullins. And sure enough, and Jody knows, Nick Mullins stinks to high heaven, but he can throw a play action pass. Josh Dobbs can't. So if you're going to keep running play action and Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay's offense, you got to play a style of quarterback that can do that.
Frank Reich got a head coaching job because he changed the entire offense for one quarterback.
Yeah.
And won a Super Bowl.
But
you got to do it.
Josh Dobbs has kind of come back down to earth. He was the hero.
But I agree with John, though. You're putting a square peg in the round hole with John.
Yeah, you're playing Kirk Cousins offense. It's ridiculous.
Agreed.
Don't you guys, all Jake, before you were, I just love how Joe Flacco is tearing it up right now. He's better than Deshaun Watson has ever been all year. Oh, and by the way, the Jets could have had him. Everybody that needed the quarterback could have had him, and they didn't get him. And now the Cleveland Browns are probably going to go to the playoffs because of Joe Flacco.
I watched Flacco play with the Jets. He could still throw the football, but he couldn't move.
He can't move.
If they could have gotten any pressure on him yesterday, Cleveland doesn't win that game. But shame on the Jag. They got no pressure whatsoever. All right, Jeff Kerr, we got to let you run. We kept you over a half an hour. Thank you very much for jumping in with us today. Glad you're feeling better. Glad you got your IT stuff all worked out. We will get you back here again next Monday. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Jeff.
Absolutely. Last Monday was hell, guys.
Read him at cbssports.com. Jeff Kerr here with us on Birds 365. All right, McMullen coming back. We've got BLG, Brandon Lee Gouton, joining us in less than 20 minutes. Keep it right here on Birds 365.